Hello everyone, I'm Carolina Canyon Riberon, and this is my video presentation for my Capstone project for the Masters in Social Justice and Human Rights for Arizona State University. I invite you into this narrative and visual presentation that showcase the purpose of my Capstone project. Human first, immigrant, mom of 6. Since a very young age, I knew that I wanted to further my education, to be part of the change, to fight injustice, but I wanted to do it in an informed and conscious way. That's why I chose this program and why this project was created. I gained more than education and information. I regained my agency and my voice. I have spent this past year thinking about the power of knowledge, who gets it and who doesn't, and how that shapes our lives. We live in a world overflowing with information, yet so many people still don't understand their rights, their options, or the systems that impact them every day. And that's not an accident. Knowledge has always been treated as privilege, and restricting access to it has always been a powerful tool of oppression. Through this program, I began to see how deeply colonization still shapes the way knowledge is produced, whose voices are heard, whose stories are erased, what gets taught, and what gets banned. These decisions still come from positions of power, and when people stop questioning injustice, what is abnormal becomes normal. We normalize trauma, poverty, mental health struggles, lack of housing, inaccessible education, and affordable healthcare. We normalize the abnormal because systems teach us to. Human rights and social justice are not abstract ideas, they show up in very real ways. And who has access to food, safety, housing, opportunity, and who doesn't. And for me, the most personal part of this project is mental health. I truly believe that mental health education can give families the tools to prevent tragedies. And I will always wonder whether my brother's story and my family's story might have been different if we had known how to support him in ways we didn't yet understand. That loss lives inside this work. But learning about these patterns helped me understand how essential agency is. The ability to know, reflect, and act for ourselves. Scholars like Denver's remind us that people who understand their rights experience better outcomes. Nuri describes education as the foundation of identity and self-actualization. And Mujica writes that true freedom cannot exist without fairness. All of this helped me realize that knowledge is not just information, it is liberation. It is the beginning of change. My own journey reflects this. I grew up in a small country where education was free, but only for those who could afford not to work or sacrifice so much in the process of doing both. Later, in the US, education came with a price that felt unreachable for so many. And I learned firsthand how meritocracy is a delusional reality because opportunities are determined by corrupt structures and systems that prevent equal access to opportunities and the conditions that precede them. Those experiences taught me that education, which should be a ladder, often becomes another barrier, but they also taught me why this work matters. This capstone grew out of the desire to bridge the gap between complex academic ideas and everyday struggles. It challenges systems that expect saviors to fix crises while ignoring root causes. It asks us to look at chronic, invisible suffering, like mental health, as urgently as visible emergencies. True humanitarianism is about prevention, not band-aids, quick fixes, or one fix for all. My vision is simple: to make knowledge accessible, inclusive, decolonized, and practical, to help people see the connection between their lived experiences and larger systems of power and oppression, and to remind us all that we each can have agency, not just to understand the world, but to change it. Knowledge should never be a privilege or a weapon. It should be a shared tool for liberation, equity, and healing. Do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. Maya Angelou. When education is not liberating, the dream of the oppressed is to become the oppressor. Paulo Freire. Washing one's hand of the conflict between the powerful and the powerless means to side with the powerful, not to be neutral. Paulo Freire. Is it not a crisis in the most remote corner of the world, right after complete destruction, comparable to the wipe of all its sense of ability to survive and thrive under the most isolated, dark, and gut-wrenching feeling of hopelessness in the arms of depression? To study is not to consume ideas, but to create and recreate them. Paulo Freire.